always liked picking fruit in the garden or in the fields. I don't know why.
Se sembra un luogo comune, però c'è il piacere di raccogliere.
To eat not what you want, but what nature is giving you in that moment, and accepting it.
Cioè vivi in armonia con la natura, le stagioni, and then also I wonder if.
But we saw this tree like without leaves several months ago. Then we saw the leaves, the small figs coming, and you see it growing, and it's all the process. And then you know that in maybe in 10 days there won't be any figs anymore, so you enjoy them in that moment.
Yes, maybe that's it, because you know that something is ephemeral, and so the fact that it is only here in this week, maybe it makes it more, cioè, rende l'esperienza più speciale o più apprezzata. Sì. But do you think it's also like we have this feeling of tranquility, maybe because in our DNA still exists that memory, that genetic memory of when we were nomads, when we were cavemen and we had to walk for days and days, and then we would find a tree with fruit and we would have to eat to store up for as much as we could. Do you think that maybe this is like something happens to our heart rate, like we become calm because we have that genetic memory of feeling you are out of danger, you are now in front of a tree filled with sugar and energy, and no?
Yes, maybe. Or it's just the fact that by knowing that it won't be there in a few weeks, you are allowed to eat as many as you want.
It's the greediness. Yeah, but that's what I mean. We have a greediness that is like a ricordo di sopravvivenza, no? Cioè...
Sì, può darsi.
Qua nel giardino abbiamo 3 varietà di fichi. Probabilmente conoscete la varietà scura, ma noi abbiamo prevalentemente altre varietà che rimangono verdi anche quando sono perfettamente maturi e sono dolcissimi. Se non avete i fichi dove abitate, potreste usare le pesche, le albicocche, le ciliegie, le prugne. Okay, let's make the most delicious gluten-free almond, olive oil and fig cake you've ever tasted. I'm going to talk through this recipe in English, then Italian with Italian on screen so that it might help you. I know so many of you are studying the language. I would recommend just enjoying this episode now, letting the Italian wash over you, and then maybe watching it a second time and saying the Italian phrases with me out loud. Trust me, speaking Italian aloud is so important to familiarize yourself with the rhythm, the speed, the cadence. It's how I learned this language without having any Italian relatives. Preheat the oven to 180 degrees. Preriscaldate il forno a 180 gradi. Prepare the pan with some baking paper. Preparate la teglia con della carta da forno. I prefer to use a pan that is quite big because keep in mind when you're doing a cake with fruit, there will be a lot of moisture that can hinder the cooking of the batter. So it's really important that you lay all the fruit out as evenly as possible. Preferisco usare la teglia grande perché tenete presente che quando si fa una torta con la frutta ci sarà molta umidità che può impedire la cottura dell'impasto, quindi è necessario distribuire la frutta il più possibile. Separate the egg yolks from the egg whites. Dividete i tuorli dall'albume. In a bowl, mix egg yolks with sugar. In una ciotola mescolate i tuorli con lo zucchero. Add the vanilla, aggiungete la vaniglia, a little salt, un po' di sale, Figs are very sweet, so I want a little pinch of salt just to help to balance out the sweetness, but you won't actually taste it. I fichi sono molto dolci, quindi un pizzico di sale aiuta a controbilanciare la dolcezza, ma non si sentirà al palato. A little cinnamon, un po' di cannella, lemon zest, la scorza di limone. Add some olive oil, which goes very well with the sweetness of figs. Aggiungete dell'olio di oliva che si sposa benissimo con la dolcezza dei fichi. A little baking powder is definitely needed. Even though being a cake without flour, this is never going to be a cake that is very high. Un po' di lievito serve assolutamente, anche se senza farina non sarà mai una torta tanto alta. And a teaspoon of corn flour e un cucchiaio di amido di mais. I don't know if it's ever happened to you where you've made a gluten-free cake that has just come out too crumbly. Non so se vi è mai capitato di fare una torta senza glutine che purtroppo il risultato è troppo friabile. Corn flour, which is gluten-free, helps to make the texture of the cake more compact. L'amido di mais, che è privo di glutine, serve proprio a rendere la torta più compatta. Of course, a gluten-free cake is never going to be as compact or as high as a cake made with normal flour. Certo che una torta gluten-free non sarà mai compatta e alta quanto una torta fatta con la farina normale. Add the almond flour. Aggiungete la farina di mandorle. You'll find other recipes for a gluten-free fig cake. Use a mix of almond flour and another type of flour like quinoa flour or a special gluten-free flour. But I wanted to propose a version that was as simple as possible because sometimes it's not so easy to find special flours. Troverete altre ricette per la torta gluten-free con i fichi che prevedono l'utilizzo di un mix di farina di mandorle e un altro tipo di farina di quinoa o altra farina speciale per i celiaci. Però io volevo proporvi una versione più semplice possibile anche perché a volte non è facile trovare queste farine particolari. Slice the figs, tagliate i fichi. Whip the egg whites with a whisk until you have these beautiful soft clouds. Sbattete gli albumi con la frusta fino ad avere queste belle nuvole soffici. Now we want to gently fold in the whipped egg whites with the batter. Ora vogliamo delicatamente incorporare gli albumi montati con l'impasto. Don't mix too much, otherwise we'll lose all that air that we've created by whisking the egg whites. Non mescolate troppo, altrimenti perdiamo tutta l'aria che abbiamo creato montando gli albumi. So, as always, to properly check the quantities, I made this recipe for you twice. Allora, come sempre, per controllare bene le quantità, vi ho preparato queste ricette 2 volte. The first time I put the figs on straight away onto the batter and I used brown sugar. La prima volta ho messo i fichi subito nell'impasto e ho usato lo zucchero demerara. Doing it like this, the fruit sinks into the cake, which can be very delicious because then you have a slice that is full of fruit. Facendo in questo modo la frutta risulta affogata nella torta, che può essere molto gustoso perché poi avrai una fetta piena di frutta. But just be careful because like this, the cake will be a little bit more moist and a little less solid. Però attenzione perché così la torta sarà un po' più umida e meno compatta. Remember that a cake with almond meal is always very fragile when it's just come out of the oven, so don't touch it until it has cooled down to room temperature, otherwise you might risk it sort of falling apart. Ricordatevi che una torta con la farina di mandorle appena sfornata è molto fragile, quindi non la toccate finché non si sia raffreddata a temperatura ambiente, altrimenti rischiate di romperla. The brown sugar caramelizes more and creates this sort of crust that is beautiful and golden. Lo zucchero più scuro si caramellizza di più creando questa crosta ben dorata. Whereas the second time I added the figs after 20 minutes onto the top of the cake so that they still remain, so you can still see them and they don't sink into the batter. La seconda volta invece ho aggiunto i fichi dopo 20 minuti sulla superficie, così rimangono belli in vista e non affondano nell'impasto. You can see that the outer crust is a bit less golden because I used just normal sugar. That's all I had for the second time. Vedete che la crosta è un pochino meno dorata in quanto ho utilizzato lo zucchero normale. As always, this recipe will be on my site califlavel.com. Come sempre la ricetta sarà sul mio sito califlavel.com. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to my patrons who support this channel. I hope to see you again next episode next Friday. Alla prossima.